The Mau Mau Uprising was a Kenyan anti-colonial insurgency against British colonial rule in the 1950s. It began in 1952 and lasted until 1960. Led by figures such as Dedan Kimathi and Jomo Kenyatta, the Mau Mau rebels sought to drive out British colonial authorities and establish an independent Kenya. The conflict resulted in thousands of deaths, widespread violence, and the displacement of many Kenyans. The Mau Mau Uprising was a complex and multifaceted conflict that was rooted in the historical and social context of colonial Kenya. The Kikuyu people, who made up the largest ethnic group in Kenya, had long been subjected to forced labor, land expropriation, and cultural suppression by the British colonial authorities. The colonial government had also imposed a system of chiefs and elders, which further entrenched social and economic inequalities. In the early 1950s, a growing sense of nationalist sentiment emerged among the Kikuyu people, led by leaders such as Jomo Kenyatta, Dedan Kimathi, and Field Marshal Muthoni Likamani. This movement was fueled by the desire for independence, land reform, and social justice. In 1952, a group of Kikuyu intellectuals, including Kenyatta, formed the Kenya African National Union, KANU, which became the main political organization advocating for independence. On October 20, 1952, a group of Kikuyu militants, armed with homemade weapons and dressed in traditional clothing, attacked a bus and a police station in the Rift Valley. This marked the beginning of the Mau Mau Uprising. The rebels, known as the Mau Mau, were primarily from the Kikuyu tribe, but they were joined by other ethnic groups, including the Embu and Meru. The British colonial authorities responded to the uprising with brutal force, declaring a state of emergency in Kenya. The British Army, police, and auxiliary forces, known as the Home Guard, were deployed to quell the rebellion. The British also used aerial bombing, forced relocation of populations, and mass arrests to break the rebellion. The uprising ended with the arrest of Kenyatta and other leaders, but the movement ultimately contributed to Kenya's independence from Britain in 1963. The Mau Mau were tactical in their attack on the British. They used guerrilla warfare tactics, including ambushes, sabotage, and raids on police stations and government buildings. They also employed hit-and-run tactics, using the dense forests and mountains of Kenya to evade capture. The Mau Mau leadership, including Kenyatta and Kimathi, remained underground, using messengers and secret meetings to coordinate the rebellion. Women were also used as tools. Women played a significant role in the Mau Mau Uprising, serving as messengers, providing food and shelter to rebels, and even fighting alongside men. Many women were arrested, tortured, and killed by the British for their involvement in the rebellion. The women's role was significant, as they were able to move undetected through the forests and mountains, carrying messages and supplies to the rebels. In contrast to the Mau Mau, the Loyalist movement, also known as the Kenya African Democratic Union, KADU, supported the British colonial authorities. The Loyalists, primarily from the Kalenjin and Maasai tribes, saw the Mau Mau as a threat to their own interests and land rights. KADU was supported by the British and received financial and military aid. The Mau Mau Uprising lasted for 8 years, from 1952 to 1960. The British authorities eventually gained the upper hand, and the Mau Mau leadership was captured or killed. In 1959, Kenyatta was arrested and apprehended. The Mau Mau Uprising was a significant event in African decolonization and a symbol of Kenyan resistance against colonialism. After independence, Jomo Kenyatta became Kenya's first president, and Dedan Kimathi was hanged for his role in the uprising. The legacy of the Mau Mau continues to influence Kenyan politics and society, with ongoing debates about its significance and impact on the country's history and identity.